Here we go. Hey everybody, I'm going to put the, hi everyone, this is Gary Wilson. Welcome aboard to this week's live Path to Prosperity webinar. Welcome to all the students. We have a handful of property management students on, mostly investor agent students, and a couple of flipping students, okay? Right now there's no active students in the rental program, and that's okay. We don't really actively promote these things on a daily basis for good reason. But about every quarter, something will come up. Oh, by the way, an announcement here. The new commercial program is actively being edited right now. There's a whole group of people outside of me and then my investment services that work on a project basis. And they're really, really good at what you do. So in any case, that's a 10 module development program coming out, and you're all going to have access to it. Some of you may have participated in the development going back in the late spring, summer, early fall months. It's a little bit more advanced, but I think if you're interested in commercial, you should probably entertain the idea of taking it. For right now, they're still developing. It's probably going to be easily another month or so. All the material is in. It's just actively being structured and organized. So in any case, for all the new folks, should have a lot of new folks from Arizona right now. You'll notice you're by default in mute mode, and that's by design, so that we can all be on here live, actively vocal at the same time. So use the chat box to type in questions, okay? And I'll get to the questions as we go through the presentation. Always check the email the next day from Beverly, myinvestmentservices.com. She's the one that sends out the post webinar email with all the scheduling updates and changes. She'll give you the schedule for the webinars coming up in January. We don't have the last week set yet. There's some dates that need to be confirmed with down and around Miami. And once they've confirmed that, three of the dates are confirmed that week, but two aren't. It's kind of hard to juggle things around. So in any case, look for that email. Always follow the instructions she gives you and read the updates. That would be great if you could do that. And also remember, last week we touched on this, but subscribe to the My Investment Services YouTube channel, because you can then share all that content with your clients, help them become educated like you are, and help them be better clients. Remember, the more they know, the easier you're going to have when it comes to transaction time, guys, okay? And again, lots of stuff you can give them for free. And remember, anytime you get a calculator or spreadsheet, it should always be in original format, Excel, Word, what have you. You can brand those, put your name up there, put your name and email address on there, okay? I know it's going to have My Investment Services, but make sure yours is above that or up top or something like that. That's by design. We all get ownership rights to this stuff, okay? So that means you can use it to further help you and your clients. So in any case, without further ado, here's tonight's subject. So Louis, if you're on, let me just check the attendee list. Hang on one second. See, Chris, hey, there's a commercial program development participant. Let's see, Claudia, Deborah. Hey, Deborah, looks like you got, I'm assuming you hooked up with Jody, so that's good news, okay? Let's see, Augusta, good to see you. Good to see you from Southwest Texas. June, good to see you too. Holy smokes, look at this. Melissa, there's Louis, Shika, Stacy, Tanya, Human. All right. So Louis, if you don't mind, I'd like to use your email that you sent me as the kickoff tonight. I go into a lot more details on exit strategies, research tools, and things like that. But for those of you participating, Lou, if you don't mind, shoot me a quick chat, Louis, just to say, okay, good. That looks good. Says I can use it. So Louis, but by the way, everybody give Louis a big hand of gratitude and a thanks, because a lot of the webinars he's very active, and so we brought him all live a couple of times. It's always good for some good questions to give us subject matter, because this is all about you. Remember, this webinar is not for me to just dispense information based on what I think is right for you. It's based on the feedback I'm getting from you. So as I get emails throughout the week, that usually helps me construct what the next webinar is going to be. So I rely on you. Remember, this is for you. So use the webinar. Email me with questions, email me with whatever you need, and I'll use that and put them on these webinars, okay? So then it's also recorded, and then everybody can participate and benefit from it also. So, all right, let's see, Tanya, everybody's saying thank you. Tanya, good to hear you too. So Okay, so first things first. Let me go to Louis' question so you can see the actual question. So let's do this in a second. Oops. Hang on 1 second here. Hang on, guys. I got to back up just a second. Louis. There he is. Okay. So we got a podcasting interview coming up. That's right, Louis. Is that tomorrow? It sure is tomorrow. Hot diggity dog. That's going to be a good day. Okay, so let's get to the email. And why isn't it showing up here? I saw it. Where did I see it? Well, here, I know what the email was. I know where it was. Hang on 1 second. You know where I found it, Louis? I think it might have gone to spam because I found it in one of my old emails. And Lord knows why it ended up there. So Louis, hang on 1 second. L-O-U-I. Should be a L. Yeah, all right, let me go to the other Comcast email here. I'm not sure why it ended up there, Louis, but regardless, I'm going to find it so everybody can see it because it was an excellent question. Type this one more time. L-O-U-I-S. Oops, that should be L, not K. There. Sorry, guys, this is just going to take just a second, and I'll bring this up, and it'll bring it context to the question because the answer is going to take a while to answer. And while that's bringing that up, I'll give you a big hint. So here's the question, okay? Most gurus are always focusing on cash flow. So let me do a quick share here. You can see this, all right? Share. This is one of the neat things about doing this live. You get to see the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. So like, for example, me taking forever to get this up. Okay, so here's the question. Many, if not real estate investment gurus, such as Robert Kiyosaki and so forth, think the cash flow is the main criteria on which to base purchase of an income property so that winning is a function of buying enough rentals or equal to equal or exceed the amount of monthly liabilities. It seems that cash flow by itself is very misleading, as well as limited method of evaluating property on which to base the decision to buy or not. While it remains critical metric that must never be overlooked, I would like to understand the importance of the time value concept on any investment where value would be maximized. So in any case, the bottom line is this: of going through this, there's four main ways to profit from rental properties. Number one is cash flow, obviously. That's the net operating income, the money in your pocket after expenses, cash flow. The second one is appreciation, the fact that the property goes up in value, okay? The third way is depreciation. You get a phantom write-off, basically a write-off for owning the property, okay? Basically in the States, it's 3.41% of the cost basis per year. So you have a 27.5-year life cycle, okay, on depreciation. And then basically equity pay down, which means over time, if you have a mortgage, the mortgage balance is reducing. And even if you did not appreciate on the property, you would at least have equity because the mortgage is being reduced every single month via the monthly payments, okay? And that's just on the surface. Let's just talk about those four things for just a minute, and then I'll go into some exit strategies to help you have better cash flows if in fact cash flow is the main thing for you or your client. Okay, so cash flow, obviously that's what most people think of because that's what most people read about and talk about and teach and so forth. And of course I teach it also. But I can tell you from experience, okay, this is what I kind of want you to jot down in your notes if you don't mind, please, is write this down. Believe it or not, there are investors who focus more on appreciation. And I don't mean just in flipping. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about flipping later on. We're going to talk about just rentals right now, okay? And I saw this way back in the 80s, and I saw it in the 90s. I mean, I've seen it all the time, but when I first saw it in the 80s, I was kind of surprised by it, okay? If you think about the 80s, they were pretty good times, right? We're coming out of a major recession and gas crunch in the 70s, interest rates 18, 20%. It was just insane. And that was true for US and Canada both, by the way, those interest rates and so forth. Very difficult to get financing on properties and still be able to cash flow. So there was a lot of owner financing, okay, in those late 70s, early 80s. A lot of it, I did it too, okay? But what I recognize is the fact that some investors, their primary focus was appreciation, not the cash. They wanted the cash flow. Well, I shouldn't say that. Cash flow was just secondary to the appreciation. They were banking on the property going up in value, okay? Now, sometimes it's a personal choice. Some people just simply want to park their money, okay, and grow through appreciation and not have the cash flow coming in because they want to have basically a net effect of zero on their tax burden. They don't want to pay more taxes, okay? If you have more income, you're going to have to pay more taxes. Income's not free when it comes to taxes. Let me rephrase that. On rental income, by definition, I'll just speak about the states right now. According to the IRS, it's called passive income, which is ironic because it's anything but passive. I mean, you've got to work at it, right? But what they mean is generally speaking, people who own rentals are not directly involved with the maintenance and upkeep and repair of the properties. They may have them managed for them. So it's passive to the owner, okay? The income. Well, that income is only taxable for income tax purposes, but not Social Security purposes, okay? So keep that in mind. It is a less taxed income than earned income. Earned income is like if you're a W-2 employee, you have earned income, you're going to pay all kinds of taxes on that. Income tax, Social Security tax, so forth and so on. Cash flow for rental properties is only taxed for income purposes, not for Social Security purposes. And by the way, just as an aside, it's the same thing with most royalty income. I get royalty income now, and I only have to pay income tax on that. Okay, now back to the discussion for tonight. So folks who are generally affluent, or they're in a particular situation in life where they can't really show more income, but they want their money to grow for them, they will look for appreciating properties, okay? Now, sometimes it's driven by personal needs and wants, like what I just described there, but other times it's driven by where you are. It's basically geographic. Geography is determining what strategy you should use when you invest. So for example, in the last recession, I just spent 2 weeks in Arizona. In the last recession, I saw this back in the 90s too, by the way, in Arizona. I saw it late 90s, basically the tech bubble. I've seen 2 cycles in Arizona, and both times the Arizona market dropped fast, and it also recovered fast, okay? So in the last recession, there were periods of time, there were quarters, we measured this in quarters, there were certain quarters in Phoenix in the last recovery, certain neighborhoods in Phoenix, not all of Phoenix, but certain neighborhoods, certain towns, were appreciating literally 50% in a 90-day basis. I mean, it's just insane, In that type of an environment, as you might imagine, playing the appreciation game would probably be a better bet. And secondary would be the cash flow, okay? Another example, markets that are notoriously high priced, Manhattan, San Francisco, Vancouver, Toronto, for example, pretty close to Vancouver as far as pricing goes. The real high-end districts, parts of LA, Beverly Hills and Hollywood and all that. Believe it or not, people play the appreciation game more than they play the cash flow game. Okay, now it's geography, so that's geography based. Now, having said that, within that realm, let's just talk about, say, San Francisco, LA, for example. There are neighborhoods in those areas like Burlingame up around San Francisco, and of course, let's just talk about Beverly Hills. Property values are easily over $1 million. Believe it or not, people would actually try to play both games, and here's what they do. Instead of spending $1.2 million on a simple rental and in financing 80% of it, resulting in a negative cash flow, they would actually put down more money. So here's what I want you to think about. It's sort of like a sliding scale, okay? For example, If you're in an area where the average 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home is selling for 1.2 million, and yet rents are only bringing in, say maybe 2,500 a month, okay? And you financed 80% of that property, you finance, say, 900 some odd thousand, I can pretty much assure you $2,500 a month is not going to cover your mortgage payment. Mortgage, principal plus interest, taxes, insurance, or basically your monthly outlay. So what they'll do is they won't put down all cash. They'll put down enough cash to break even on cash flow, but still finance a portion of it. So a portion of it's financed, a portion is not financed. So they want to have a net effect of zero on income. They didn't want to show any income for tax purposes. And they'll take into consideration depreciation, by the way, too. And they'll bank on the appreciation. But again, it's not like they're paying all cash and they appreciate. They only put down what they need to break even on cash flow, and they still benefit from the appreciation, okay? And the result is this: if you think about it, let's say you pay, let's just take $1 million property, okay? So just put your pencils down for just a second. Let's say you paid $1 million for a property, cash, and it's sat empty. Let's say you had just enough income coming in to pay your property taxes and water, sewage, and garbage, all the lienable items and maintenance and repairs. So your net is your expenses meet your income, but no mortgage payment. And the property doubled in value to $2 million in 5 years, which, believe it or not, was happening. It has been happening in parts of California. So if I was that buyer, I would buy that property for $1 million, cash, no mortgage. And I know in 5 years, I have beyond a reasonable doubt that I'm going to get back $2 million. So my $1 million would double in 5 years. So it's basically about a 15% return, right? Annual return. Now, let's say though, at $500,000 mortgage, where I'm putting down $500,000, I finance $500,000, and I rented that out for $2,500 a month. I'm just giving you rough numbers. Let's say I broke even on cash flow, okay? I broke even on cash flow. My mortgage payment's covered from the rents coming in, and my other expenses are covered. Well, at the end of 5 years, if you think about it, on paper, I paid $1 million for the property, but only put down $500,000 cash. So if I get $2 million back, right, that means I gotta give the bank back $500,000, all right, but I'm getting $1.5 million on my $500,000. So what would you rather get? $2 million on $1 million in the first scenario where I paid all cash, or $1.5 million on $500,000? You see what I'm saying here? So it's a strategy. It's a strategy of balancing out debt to equity and basically what you're financing relative to cash flow and depreciation over a period of time. So let me just do a quick pause here. I just want to make sure everybody's okay so far. And this is not really all that advanced. In fact, this is happening in a lot of parts of US and Canada. So I want you to be aware of this, because a lot of agents will have this limiting belief thinking that everybody's going for cash flow. It just may seem that way because of the people you're working with. But the reality is a lot of people are doing exactly what I just described to you. So this is why this is such an important discussion. So let me check the chat box and see if I just ruffled any feathers. Okay, whoops, hang on, where did it go? There we go. Chat box, chat. Where's the chat box going here? Hang on 1 second. It's disappearing. Let me do Control H. Okay, actually, that's not what I wanted. That's a different thing there. Let me go back here. Back to Louis' email. And back to chat. Oh, here we go. Sorry, guys. Lost it there for a second. Okay, let's see. Yeah, internal rate of return. So if you think about it, what Louis is talking about, in fact, I'll just show you. Let's do this. Actually, let me get to the questions first, and I'll go back to Louis' statement. Sheik is asking, can you please repeat the strategy again? Tanya's saying, I feel like I need to take a finance class to become more proficient. I would tell you this, guys. I did take a finance class way back in university years ago, just basic stuff. However, you can study this on your own, and maybe, matter of fact, maybe I will go ahead and show you this, okay? So hang on one second. If you go to my investment services, so let me just share this, hang on one second. Share. I want you to see the path I'm taking here. So I'm in my investment services, I'm gonna click on members area. Okay, and in Shika, I will repeat that for you. Okay, hang on just 1 second. Click on server level, okay? And now everyone should have gone into the new platform, okay? So log in. Then you have to click on dashboard, okay? And then click on silver, okay? And here's what I want you to do. Scroll down to the bottom where it says forms and calculators, okay? And scroll to the bottom of that, and we're going to click on the online version of our flow calculator. So let me do a screen share on this, screen share. Okay, and let me scroll down. So Tanya, this calculator here is actually designed and behaves like a financial calculator. Okay, this is in your material. So again, you go, I think it's given to you in your learning material. Yeah, it is. In fact, it's one of the calculators that you get. But it again is also on the My Business Services website, members area. We're all server level by default, right? Go into the resources, which was that blue panel on the left. Scroll down to resources and click on this and you'll find it, okay? And in here, you can type in all your variables, okay? Well, the cool thing is all this down here, Tanya, like right here, it gives you projected 5-year internal rate of return. You can click on this and it tells you what it is. So let's just show you this. Internal rate of return calculations are commonly used to evaluate the desirability of investments or projects, okay? The higher the projected internal rate of return, the more desirable it is to undertake the project. Assuming all projects require the same amount of upfront investment, the project with the highest internal rate of return will be considered the best and undertaken first, okay? So in any case, they really didn't do a good job of describing it. But here's what I want to show you. I'm not filling in all these fields here. I'm just going to show you what comes out, okay? You get cash flows and return on investment details. That's table 1, okay? Table 2 is yearly financial projection details, okay? Look at that, income, interest, taxes. So Tanya, this is an excellent calculator to practice on. One of the first things you should ever do, and Shika also you, practice on this calculator, okay? It gives you projections for 5 years. That's what I mean by it being a financial calculator. It gives you projections over a 5-year period at the end of a total, assuming you were selling the property. So you get to see how this property behaves, not just at the point you purchase it, but throughout a 5-year period, and at the final sale at the end of 5 years, what your return would be. Okay. It also gives you financial projections, ROI table details. There's your appreciation showed over the years. You know, net cash flow, net worth increase, and finally, last but not least, is the year-end balance details if you had financing. Okay. So this is what will be left on your loan, the interest you're paid, the principal reduction, all that. So Tanya, I think if you played with this, practice it, you really shouldn't need to take like a local community college finance class, although you could. Another thing you could take is there's a short version of the CCIM finance class. And I think if you took it, how long does it take to take that class? I think it's like a semester, and you do, it's maybe like 8 classes or something. It's a lot. It's not as complex as the CCIM full-blown version. That's very advanced, by the way. This is something you could take. So look through your board and see if they offer one. If not, look at your local community college. That's where I took mine. Okay. You can do the CCM stuff, which I did too, but it's a lot more involved, a lot more expensive. So in any case, you can use this as this is a financial calculator. So let's go back to Shika's request to please repeat that. So again, an example, $1 million property, and it's in Beverly Hills, okay? And by the way, the reason I mentioned is we have 2 of our top students are in Beverly Hills. And they're dealing with these properties. And it's funny because everywhere I go, people say, well, you can't do that here because it's too expensive or it's this or it's that. Guys, we got people investing everywhere. In fact, I'll throw this out to you. Check this out. In Beverly Hills, particularly West Beverly Hills, 82% of the residents are renting right now. 82%. Okay? And maybe it's because properties do cost $1 million. I don't know. But the fact is people buy properties here all the time. It's an active market. It's crazy. It's very expensive to live out there, but it's also a lot of fun if you're into that kind of stuff. So in any case, back to this $1 million property. Now, if I paid cash for that $1 million property, and let's just assume my monthly outlay was covered, and I had just enough income coming in to cover my taxes, my insurance, and any lienable item like water, sewage, and garbage, okay? In other words, I really didn't have the thing rented out showing a cash flow. It's just I'm just going to assume my net monthly outlay is net. It's zero. Okay. Well, in the end of 5 years, historically speaking, we know that property would double. Okay. So in 5 years, I could sell it for $2 million, which means I doubled my money. It went from $1 million to $2 million in 5 years. And if you use the rule of 72, rule of 72 is you divide your return, whatever your rate of return is in 72, and it gives you the number of years you're getting your money back. Where it turns out about a 15% return in the 72 is about a 5-year return, double your money, okay? Now, in other words, I grew my money by 100% in 5 years. Now, let's take the same property, but let's now assume when I bought it for $1 million, but I put down $500,000 and I financed $500,000. And let's say now I did rent it out. I rented it out and the rent coming in, and again, don't quote me on these numbers. I'm just throwing this out there. Let's just say $2,500 a month was enough to cover my monthly payment, principal and interest, plus taxes and insurance and water, sewage, and garbage. In other words, I've got money coming in, maybe some positive cash flow, I don't know. But I just want to assume it's enough to cover my mortgage payment for the sake of this example and other expenses. So I'm still breaking even. But remember, I've now got a mortgage payment going out every month and rent's coming in to cover it. Now, I've only put out $500,000 out of my own pocket. Remember, I financed the other $5. I only put down $500,000 out of my pocket, okay? So $500,000 came out of my pocket. Yet at the end of 5 years, the property still went from $1 million in value to $2 million in value. So now the difference is because I only put $500,000 out of my pocket, not the whole million in cash. Now my return is $2 million on $500,000, right? Because I only took $500,000 out of my pocket, my own cash. Okay. Now $2 million minus the $500,000 that I financed leaves me with $1.5 million. In other words, I netted $1.5 million on the gain, but I only put down $500,000. Well, if you figure $500,000 is 1/3 of 1.5 million, that means I tripled my money in 5 years. I tripled my money in 5 years versus doubling my money in 5 years. Okay, so Shika, that's why I brought that out there, because I've seen this a lot. I know a lot of investors that will do this, particularly those who are pretty affluent, and they're looking more for appreciation and not wanting to cause them problems on the tax end of things. They'll do this kind of stuff, and because they know it's better to triple your money than double your money. On the surface, it looks like, yeah, they paid $1 million, they did, but they only they only put out $500,000 out of their own pocket. It still was $1 million property when they bought it. It still was a $2 million property when they sold it. The difference was, in the first scenario was an all cash purchase. They doubled the money 100%. Million went out of their pocket, 2 million came in. On the second scenario, only 500,000 went out of their pocket. They did sell it for 2 million 5 years later, but because they had another 500,000 in the loan, that had to be paid off. So they netted 1.5 million, but 1.5 million is 3 times more than 500,000 the cash they put out of their pocket. So, and that's just a big painting a broad brushstrokes with a simple example. The fact is, there's all kinds of factors and variables, and maybe it would have made sense to only finance 1/3 of the original purchase at 333,000. Maybe only 1/4 at 250,000. In either case, you're putting more money down. But the reality is if you whatever as much as you can finance that and break even, your gain's going to be on a percentage basis much greater. That's the point I was trying to make there. Now that's just plain and simple strategy. That's just a plain simple strategy. So let me check the chat box here. All right, I think I'm okay there. The reason I want to kind of break here and move into a different subject is I want to show you that in spite of your client's circumstances, let's say back in Beverly Hills, your client did have to put down they could only put down 200,000 and they had to finance the other 800,000. Here's some things you can do. First off, we've all heard of Airbnb. It's in both US and Canada, okay? I'm trying to look at my notes here. Yeah, sorry, Airbnb. And by the way, I'm going to give you 2 tools for you to use for you and your clients. One is called AirDNA, okay, AIR space DNA. That's the title. If you just Google AirDNA, you'll get the application. Here, let's do that. Okay. So let's go AIR DNA. All right. And there you go. www.airdna.co. It's an excellent tool for analyzing properties, okay, to see if they'll make sense to be an Airbnb property. All right. AirDNA, you can see they got YouTube videos or on Twitter. They're all over the place. So AirDNA. Oh, sorry. Let me do a screen share here. Share. There you go. Okay. AirDNA. I'll show you another one just a second, but I got a question from Augustin. Augustin, I'm sorry. I keep calling you Augustin. It's Augustin. Hi, Augustin. Good to see you, buddy. This is brilliant. But how do you figure the rate of appreciation in our area for each type of property? That's a good question because it varies. You can use tools like RPR. In fact, write this down, guys. RPR is an excellent tool. We're trying to make headway in Canada. It is up there to a degree. Okay, so RPR can give you projections. What you do is you look at historical data. You're looking for the trend. You're basically looking for the trend. So RPR is an awesome tool, Augustin, to help figure this out. Another great tool, guys. I write these things down. I'm going to have Beverly put them out there on the server level membership site. The brokerage company called Marcus and Millichap. I think we mentioned that a couple weeks ago. Marcus and Millichap. Here, let's bring that up. Let's do this. AirDNA. Okay. Marcus and Millichap. Okay. Whoops. Hang on one second. LCHAP. There we go. Marcus and Millichap. They have a new office in Toronto. See, I'm in Canada because it's giving me all of the Canadian responses. Kind of neat how the internet knows this stuff, but they do. Okay, marcusmillichap.com, guys. You should all be seeing this. If you're not seeing this, please shoot me a chat. But I think I shared this so you'll see this. One of their top managers, a guy named David Bradley. I just interviewed him last month on the podcast. when his podcast gets published, you definitely want to listen to it, okay? Paul will also put the audio video version of that on YouTube too. But the reason is David Bradley used to work for me. He was at Marcus & Millichap years ago. He took their worst performing office, which was Jacksonville, Florida, and 1 year took him from number 42 in performance. They had 42 offices at the time. Took it to number 3 in performance in 1 year, and he was 25 years old when he did it. So I hired him to be my broker, my commercial broker at my company. Then in the merger with KW, he was an instrumental part of that because we helped launch the KW commercial division in Pennsylvania. We were meeting with Dave Speck and all these guys. And in any case, Marcus & Millichap was smart, and they hired him back after a couple of years. Paid a lot more money, and he's now in Chicago, running the Chicago office. So look for that interview. Now go to marcusandmillichap.com. There it is right there. You can click on it here. I'm not going to go through all the steps because I don't want to set up an account with them. They'll call me up and wonder if I'm going to go join them. But research right there, research and advisory services. Look at all that stuff. Multifamily investment forecast 2019, Canada investment forecast 2019, office investment, retail investment, self-storage. It's all out there. So you can see forecast for your area. So Augustine, you're out there in West Texas. You can definitely use us. They'll have all the markets out there. They don't have an office out there, I'm pretty sure. At least they didn't when I was there. But this is another great way for you to gather data on your area and see what reasonable projections are. That's all they are is projections, okay, forecasts. Okay, now, let's see here. What else can I tell you? Marcus & Millichap. All right, write this down. A couple of more good tools. Remind. It's R-E, the letters R-E, and then the word mine, F. Listen to me. M-I-N-E. R-E as in real estate, mine is if you're mining for gold, okay? R-E-M-I-N-E. Great tool for research. They tap into all kinds of data, public data, your housing property, your property record data. They tap into all of that. So Remind. Another one I've mentioned over the years is Rebo Gateway. Rebo Gateway. R-E-B-O Gateway. Okay. Another great tool, Chris, especially for you in California, it's a great tool. Remind works very, very good in Texas, Arizona. I mean, I've seen it actually I've seen Remind in Jersey, Louisiana. It's everywhere. I'm just talking about where I've seen it really work well. It's everywhere, but those areas I've seen it really do a great job. But that's how you can find this information out and do some reasonable projections. So in any case, that was an excellent question. So let me go back here real quick to the chat box. Come on, computer. Okay, let's see. Where did it go? Here we go. Hang on 1 second. Let's give me the attendee list. I wanted the chat box. There it is. Okay. This is from Louis. So Augustine, you should see this. Your analysis must take into consideration the market activity. If that market shows high, fast growth activity, then look at appreciation for faster REI instead of cash flow. Yeah. Yep. I would agree with that. Now there's a lot more to this. In fact, let me, we're chewing up some, we're getting on 15 minutes left. Let me go over a couple more things here. Another possible exit strategy, non-medical assisted living. And this has come up a lot lately. It seems like it's probably as far as development goes where Airbnb was 10 years ago. It started I saw it first in Phoenix, Arizona. I just was out there. I've seen it up in Canada. I've seen it pretty much everywhere. What that means is non-medical assisted living means that the property is not as heavily regulated as if it was a medical type facility, okay? So non-medical means it doesn't meet all the requirements, it doesn't have to, okay? You don't promote it that way. And yet the people who will rent those places are people who are probably my age or older, and they don't want to cut grass and fix stuff and shovel snow. they're mobile. They want to travel. They want to hike, bike, and explore and discover. And but they want a nice place. They just don't want any responsibility for it. Okay. They want a nice dining room, a nice kitchen they can use and take advantage of, and a place where they can pull their nice car in and pull the car out. They're just perfectly ambulatory. There's nothing wrong with them at all. And they will pay up to $3,000 per bedroom. Okay. Not unusual. And I've seen the scope of service go from bare minimum to where they just get their room and by the way, you have to have a private bathroom per room for this to really work well. That's what I've noticed. But they want common areas. They want to hang around other people who are like them in common areas when they want to come and go as they please. But when I mean scope of service is this. Some areas, the tenants all fully responsible for their own meals, their own food, their own laundry, their own everything. And I've seen some properties where the owner provides everything from washing their car to doing their laundry to doing the grocery shopping and preparing the meals. Okay, all of that. I mean, and the more you offer, the more you can charge, and people will pay it. Okay, so that's another good extra strategy. Another thing you can do is you can basically, if you have enough properties or if you have enough people involved in this sort of arrangement, you can literally create your own REIT, R-E-I-T, Real Estate Investment Trust. Now you have to have an attorney to do this, okay? Because it's basically you're falling under loosely under the Securities Exchange Commission rules, okay? I've seen it done privately. I've seen it done where people would take their properties. I actually was involved in a transaction doing this years ago, where a gentleman had over 900 units in and around Philadelphia, all student housing. And it was 80 some odd years old, like 83, 84 years old. And he wanted to have an exit strategy that positioned his children to be able to have everything, not create a huge tax burden for anybody. So what he did was he created a REIT, okay? The REIT bought, he was he created the REIT, so it was his REIT, okay? Sold shares of it, and then the REIT bought his properties, okay? And he retained the property management contract on the properties. So it basically retained control of the properties through the REIT, retained control of the properties through the management company, got paid for both. So because he owned the REIT company, he got paid a servicing fee to manage the growth of the production, or sorry, the performance of the properties he already owned, and a management fee. He got the cash out, he got the cap out as if he sold the properties, and he set up his children to be principals, all right, in the REIT. This is an amazing strategy. So in any case, that's another possibility. Let me look at, see what else I wrote down. So Airbnb, non-medical assisted living. Let's see, I can't even read my writing here. Obviously, later on you can always refi a property to pull cash out. You can do what I did, which is I got a blanket mortgage on my portfolio. Actually, write this down. I got a blanket mortgage on my portfolio in the form of a line of credit. It was basically a commercial line of credit. And the legal structure was a blanket mortgage, which means it blanketed my existing portfolio in the form of a liens. Okay, the liens were drawn up on all the properties. But I got to extract the equity in the form of a line of credit. So I didn't have to refinance the properties. I still had the original mortgages on them. I mean, they were paid down, they were amortized, which is partly why I did it that way. But the other reason is the line of credit can be repurposed and reused over and over and over again, okay? And every time I add another income producing asset to my portfolio, the lender increased the line of credit, okay? So that's something else you can do. Let's see, what else can you do? We talked about REIT. You can do 1031 exchange, right? Remember, a 1031 exchange is, let's say you own a duplex, you want to buy a fourplex. You can sell the duplex through the exchange process, defer the capital gains tax on the duplex, and then take all the gains, all the portion of the money you gain to buy the next property. It's easier to grow, get bigger properties that way. The problem is you got to sell as you go along. I don't like that, okay? Let's see, 1031 exchange, REIT, non-medical assisted living, Airbnb. Here's one for you. We're starting to see this pop up again. It's called a lease option. What it means is it's not a rent to own. It looks like a rent to own, but we don't like rent to own. We do prefer lease options. See, rent to own, what happens is Somebody gives you a deposit and it goes against the purchase of the property, and then a portion of every month's rent they pay also go towards the purchase of the property. The problem is if they stop paying, you can't just evict them like if they were just a tenant. You have to foreclose on them because they have now equity, ownership of the property. However, if you do a lease option, what you're doing is you're selling the option to buy the property. You're not selling the property. You're selling basically a piece of paper. It's an option document that gives the buyer the option to buy the property at a future date. And that option agreement costs money, say 5%, say $5,000. They give you $5,000, you give them the paper that says the option to buy the property. At today's rate, by the way, the benefit to them is, the buyer, that the price is locked in. The other benefit is they're also going to lease from you. They're not going to rent the property from you, but no portion of the option fee go towards the purchase of the property, and no portion of the rent goes towards the purchase of the property. So the option fee is yours to keep. It's non-refundable. Just simply a legal right for them to purchase property at a later date. And the rent just gives them the right to, use of the property during a period of time, a term. Not $1, not $1 goes to the purchase of the property. But here's the other benefit to them. You're also being their number one creditor. They're paying you rent every month, and you can say at the end of the year, yes, they paid the rent every single month on time. And it's easier for them to qualify for a loan at that point on a property that's now worth more than it was the year before, and yet they locked into the prior year's price. So you see why and how lease options work. So in any case, lease options are a great strategy. And also, if you're on the purchasing end, and maybe you've maxed out your borrowing capacity, you can do a lease option too to buy a property, right? At least get control of it. And maybe even while in the lease period, during the option period, maybe you can rent that property out for more than you're paying on your rent. And you have a cash flow coming in that you can save up. So the year later, you have more money to put down on the property. Okay, plus the property is now worth more and you look better to a bank. So in any case, another strategy there. I think that's it for the strategies I want to go over. I just want you to know this, that whatever market you're in, even if it's a high price market, there's always other strategies to profit from the property. Not just what we talked about at the beginning where you put more money down, so maybe you break even on cash flow or maybe you have a small cash flow, but more importantly, it's an area where prices are escalating, right? They're appreciating. Okay, that's just the beginning of the discussion. Later on, we talked about all the other options, Airbnb, things like that. So in research tools, what did we go over? Went over Remine, Rebo Gateway, Marcus Millichap. Oh, by the way, RPR, guys, if you go to RPR Commercial, it is an amazing tool to provide data on your area. You can do it by city, town, county, postal code, what have you, okay? RPR. In fact, I'll give you one more. Here's an app on your phone. Write this down. Ticor for agents. Here, let's go. Let me reduce some of these sessions here. That's Marcus Millichap. We'll get rid of that. Get rid of the real estate calculator. Get rid of the old link there. Okay, let's do Ticor. So hang on one second. Ticor. Ticor for, this is when you get on your phone. Ticor for agents. I think that might be what it is. Ticor agent. There you go. So let's click on it. Okay. So this is a title company, and they have an app you can get. Ticor agent web app. You can get it on your phone too. This is you can download on a computer. Oh, sorry. Let me do a screen share. Share this. On the phone, on your telephone, I think it's Ticor One for agents. And on your phone, right, on your cell phone, you type in the city, town, county, zip code, what have you, postal code, and it gives you a map of the area that you plugged in. And it gives you red pins and green pins. The green pins of the properties lived in by the owners, and the red pins of the properties lived in by tenants. Now, most agents would market to the green pins because those are the people that own their own properties. What we do is we go and market to the people with the red pins. We know the rental properties. And if you click on the red dot, you got to go a layer deeper, but also gives the owner's information, right? The owner's contact information. Now you can market to all the rental property owners in the area directly, which is what you should be doing, okay? So in any case, I hope that really helps you guys. I know there's a lot tonight, and again, I think what we'll do is there's no webinar next week, but the following week on the 30th, would you guys like me to go back and redo last week's webinar where I was basically preparing you for speaking at like a local event or your local chiropractors association or Louis, like Diane Price did with the engineers up there in Ancaster, any organization, or just doing your own workshops. If you could type that in, everybody's saying yes. Okay, good. That must have been a good one. And I feel so bad that was broken up with the bad Wi-Fi, but we'll redo it again next week. Let me go back here real quick because I think Louis had one more comment. Let's see, Human, is it apply for Texas state too? Yeah, in Texas, this is true for every state, guys. So Human, when I was there, I don't think it was your market center, it was another market center. No, I think it was Louisiana actually. So what happened is it's sort of one of those territory things. So like these title companies purchase territories for these apps. These apps are not theirs. They buy these apps from app developers. So what we found out was there was one parish in Louisiana where Fidelity Title already had that area. Okay, so Tycor is blocked. So if you find that Tycor is blocked in your area, it's not coming up, it's probably because another provider, a title company, already had that area locked up with that application provider. So, but there's lots of title apps out there. Title companies are famous for putting these apps out there to help agents like us do research and things like that. So in any case, great question. Okay, this is for Louis. How can we find agents in other areas we are interested in? So Louis, go to the community site. So let me go there real quick, okay? And I'll show you this. Go to My Investment Services. You have to click on, let me do screen share. Hang on one second. Screen share. Okay, and then click on members area. And we have to always log into Silver, of course, okay? I'm already logged in, so I'll go to my dashboard. And then, you gotta click on Silver. That's the members area, okay? And if you scroll down, Louis, at the bottom here it says our community site. So I'm gonna click on that. Okay. There's a login here. You got to go in there. Now watch, I'm not going to be able to log in. It'd be awesome if it. Oh my gosh, I took the dog. Okay, so they got me grandfathered into conversion. So these are all the folks, Louis, that are out there active right now, and you can see they're mainly in the mostly populated areas. So I have to go back to Colorado. I think this summer I'm going to be back there teaching. But look at like LA and around there, just gobs and gobs of people. Texas, Louisiana, Florida. I'll be back there in all of the East Coast up here in Ontario. And so this is, you click on these, all right? Let's just click on this right here. Oop. And see who that is. That's Vanessa Blondeau. She's definitely from Louisiana. And you can check her out and communicate with her. Send her a message, email. Give her a description of her, right? Any case, so that's how you can locate people anywhere in network. And I think last time I checked, there was probably close to 1,000 active, which is pretty good in most of the areas, Louis. So anybody, back to Louis' question, this is how you can connect with everybody, okay? By being on that site. Okay, now Louis is asking previously, are they then managing the property? Oh, okay, so on the lease option, Louis, it depends. I mean, if you've got a high volume of properties, they probably are going to be managed for you, okay? I mean, that would be my preference. In the beginning, though, you probably want to manage yourself when you're first starting out. But if you get to like 40 some odd units, that's when I started turning things over. And it really made my life a lot simpler, okay? Okay, let's see. Oh, the question was from agent. Sorry, agent, didn't realize that. Okay, let's see. Tycor agent is only available in California, Nevada, Oregon, and Washington. Aha. Well, they definitely were using it. Interesting. I wonder how they were able to get, because I know some Texas folks were using, at least I thought they were. Okay. Uh, okay, let's see here. This is from Latrell. Hey, Latrell, so, okay, 6:55 p.m. What about purchasing using a land contract versus lease option? Do you benefit on the position you have in a land contract look better to a lender than a lease option? The answer is yes and no, Latrell. So on a land contract, there's definitely some pros and cons. In fact, if you want to, in my 6th book called it's Massive Passive Cash Flow Method, there's a whole section on there, about 100 pages of creative purchasing techniques, and we go into land contracts really deep there. But the bottom line is this: with land contracts, you have to be careful, because if the current owner, like let's say you get a property and you purchase it through a land contract, and let's say you're into it several months or a couple of years, and the owner goes through a divorce or something like that, and all of a sudden all hell breaks loose. Excuse my French. If you don't have yourself properly protected, you could be in a world of trouble. And you can't just go and say, hey, I actually own this property, because the bank will definitely call in the mortgage on that one. They're calling the loan. And you've been paying that person payments, and maybe they haven't been paying their payments on theirs, and the bank forecloses on the property. They don't care if you get a land contract or not. So there's some definite pros and cons. Some of the pros are, of course, you can treat it like your own. And profit from it. You can improve it, you can maintain it, you can rent it, you can do all just like you could any other property, but you don't actually take title to a future date. Now, for anybody looking to sell through a land contract, you need to be careful too, because if a person defaults, the purchaser defaults, you can't just evict them either. In fact, it's not even a full-blown foreclosure. It's actually called an extraction. There's another whole process of getting somebody out of a property that we almost never talk about. Matter of fact, nobody does. It's not eviction, it's not foreclosure, it's called extraction. Okay, that's a legal process. So Latrell, that's a good question. So Latrell, do me a favor. Beverly watches these and recording. I think she's got that chapter all by itself. She can forward all of you. I think we've done that a couple of times over the last year or so. But if not, just let me know. And guys, we'll get that out to you in a separate email or something. But it's one chapter from that book, and it's a definite good read. It's not too complicated, and to help you understand these things, lease options, land contracts, it's all out there. So any case, guys, I think I'm going to wrap things up here. So we're not meeting next week, and we generally would take off 4 weeks out of the year. So we still have 4 webinars per month, but there's an extra 4 weeks in the year, of course, so there's 4 we take off, and one of them will be next week. And a special week in my mind, in my life, in my heart. And if you're a Christian person, God bless you, and your Christian vacation, I am too. And always remember, Jesus is the reason for the season. And I teach, we play lots of gifts. I'm guilty. Like, believe me, I spoil everybody. And right now, listening to this, but it's fun to do. And it's fun to have the money to be able to do it. But always, I'll tell you this: I'm the worker bee. I'm not the creator. I'm the worker bee. Okay. And I will always encourage you to leverage some of your wealth that you gain from all this as a form of ministry for you and your loved ones too, as much as you're able to. So, in any case, and then again, if you celebrate Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, God bless you and your family, and I hope you celebrate with gusto. And I used to get these cards from my agents all the time, and my tenants, and I love them. Put them up on my mantle, just like you're the one. I've been blessed to grow up in a number of areas. Born in Germany, went all over Europe, raised all over the East Coast, and mainly around Washington D.C. Growing up, I was able to experience different cultures and different foods and different religions. My parents were open to that. They were okay that I spent a night with Johnny Rose and we ate matzo ball soup. That's just what we did, and I love it. Grateful for the experiences, and I hope everybody gets to experience the same thing. So in any case, God bless you and your family, and Louis, we'll see you tomorrow on the podcast, and we'll see all of you in 2 weeks on the 30th of December. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.